This is Scrum. So we've had a look at it already, but just wanted to, kind of
Yeah, I know this one.
jog your memory. Yeah. So it's a sprint. It's a concept of sprint is at the heart of Scrum. So you got to deliver the release in sprints. You got a daily Scrum. This is called Scrum ceremonies or Scrum events. So you do a
But why
daily
we
Scrum.
why we talking about Scrum in BA? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Because in the BA box, what they did was they would say that if you want to deliver a product, so you can have got two
Huh?
options, right? So this is a predictive and adaptive. They're two different
Yeah.
ways. Previously in BA box 1.0, they started with BA box 1.0, which came about, I think, a good 20 years ago. There was no mention of agile at that point of time. Obviously, it's more traditional, and they used to emphasize more on the writing of FRS and the BRDs and all that, which is not the case now, because organizations have moved, businesses have adopted agile as the way to work. So with 2.0 and 3.0, version 3.0 now, the BA book actually kind of addressed this, and in fact, I'll share that with you. There's something called as agile competency of a business analyst or something. They came up with a separate paper, which is about 40 pages. So that talks about what kind of agile skills are required for the BA professional nowadays, which is totally different from what they proposed about 20 years ago. And that's why, I mean, all these things are the way to implement, right? So when you talk about BA, that's what I was telling you. There's a core BA and BA kind of thinking, and BA concepts, competencies, professional skills, techniques, and methods that you have. And then when you work with in the context of agile team, if you work with those people when you get into a job, then you need to kind of mix these two together. And that's why you're not having the FRA, you're not creating those 500-page documents anymore. Now you're creating backlogs. Either you as a BA or the product owner would create the backlog, and from there you create the sprint backlog, you work on the user stories, and then you would maintain that. You would actually write the backlog items here, which is the user stories, and then you would work with the team in terms of executing those or developing those stories into functionality or features. And you do the sprint planning with the team, do the estimation, the planning poker, and then you would get into the you would actually have after the end of the sprint or the time box, you do the sprint review where you can showcase that to the stakeholders, and then you have a retrospective where you look at the process. So this is more or less like the what should I say, the working practices of pretty much every team nowadays. If you're working in a team on a product, then this is pretty much the way to go. This is more or less like accepted as the industry standard now, whether it is banking, whether it is shipping or retail or whatever it is. Every industry has adopted this nowadays. If you have a product, they expect you to work in these kind of teams who are agile. So that's why it's important to know, and that's why I was telling you as well, right, that you need to have both these skill sets. So there's an business analysis kind of a thing, which is what we've been talking about. And then there is an agile context of a scrum master, scrum related stuff, the sprints and all those other agile methodologies. You need to have a knowledge which can use the best of these two, because this is a practice. These are ways that you actually kind of apply these principles into your work. These are the practices, whereas business analysis is your role. So you would perform the role, but then you're expected to work as a team member. You're not a business analyst in Scrum. You're still a team member. A developer is a team member, an architect is a team member, right? So all of these people would bring what they do as part of their role onto the table. This is what I think that the photograph on the right actually kind of conveys that. Let's assume this guy is a BA. So we've got a tester, one tester. This lady is, let's say, a developer. This gentleman here is an architect, and this lady is a developer. So we've got two developers and an architect and a tester, and this is a BA. So you still are a team member irrespective of what you're doing. But then as a BA, you're expected to do work on these on certain aspects, right? Which is, for example, the product backlog, working with the product owner, prioritization, estimation, working with the team to come up with estimates, and then writing up the stories and expanding on the stories, writing acceptance criteria. So those are your role. And that's why I'm saying that as a BA, you don't need to be knowing the technology, because there's somebody else who is responsible. These people are responsible for implementing that solution. Your job is facilitating and supporting them in implementing the solution, whereas they are the experts in that technology, whether it's PHP or Java or .NET or whatever it is. They're going to implement it. But what do they need to develop? What is the prioritized list of items in this sprint? How much should that be coming to in terms of sizing and the estimate? And what is considered as a definition of done? And what are the acceptance criteria? When can you say that, yes, this functionality is right, it's done? So those are the things that you as a BA would do, would do it, because it's more functional. It's nothing to do with the technical stuff, whether you use PHP or whether you use Java or JavaScript or whatever it is. These are the things that you would specify as a BA. It's functional stuff. It doesn't. So these are the technology agnostic, platform independent stuff. Whereas the design, development, architecture, that is platform specific, that's technology specific, that is dependent on the underlying technologies. Whereas we as BAs, we operate in a space, in the problem space, which is outside that, which is actually not hinging on a specific solution, specific technology, specific platform. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So that's
So
why, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that's why I was telling that we have to operate as BAs. We need to operate in a problem space. Pretty much we and the product owners and the rest of the business folks would operate in the problem space. Whereas the team here, apart from the BAs, would operate the architects, developers, testers, designers, visual designers, UX designers. All of those would actually work on the solution space. They work on the solution in the solution domain. Right? And we are helping them, we are facilitating, we're enabling them to work in the solution space by defining the problem better. First thing, by identifying the problems, by prioritizing them, by specifying them, and by communicating them clearly in a way that they understand what is the required of them, what is it that they need to work on, and they deliver, right? So that's the role of a BA. That doesn't change even in the agile context. It still is the same. So BA still is a BA. That's the beauty of the reason why I again, going back to our discussions, BAs would still be continued, would still continue to perform their role as BA. There's nothing that's changed. The only thing is how they're performing their role. And as I was mentioning, the traditional way we were actually creating so many different tons of documents and all those things. Now it's still we are the people who should create the requirement. We are the owning the requirement still. But then how you do that has changed. Now we've got user stories, which are short ones. You've got acceptance criteria, the Gherkin statements given when then, and you've got these daily stand-ups. You've got the feedback with the customer. Now you've got previously we couldn't really get in touch with the customers so easily. Now we've got these kind of sprint reviews, product demos that you're going to actually show to the customer almost on a weekly, or at least at the end of the sprint, which is 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So you're getting the feedback from the customers early, and then you would, as BA, you would update your backlog based on the feedback coming in from the customers, right? So the changes, the defects, all of that they report. You are going to update the backlog, and then you work with the product owner, or if you are the product owner, if it's a small team, you can be the product owner, and you would then prioritize. If it is really important, it's very urgent, it's actually a showstopper kind of a defect, then that would be prioritized up the list, pushed up the list, and they need to work on it immediately, the team. So you would prioritize it, and then you say that, hey guys, forget all the 10 features that we've identified and we wanted to work in the last sprint. Now that we've got change in priorities, now our sprint backlog is looking different. And that's why Agile is able to take the changes, which is different from the traditional ones, right? Traditional, you can't make the changes. But Agile, you're actually looking at only 3 weeks or 2 weeks time. And after that, you're actually kind of looking at, okay, what next? Oh, by the way, I think we have got to change a course correction because we've got these small little defects or big showstopper that has affected us in the release. So we need to address that. So let's try and tackle that first. Forget all the other features that we're working. And you can do that with Agile because that's what the customer wanted. How do you know that the customer wanted that? Because you approach the customer. How does the customer know that? Because you actually invited the customer over for the showcase. And they're not looking at documents, going through 500-page documents and reviewing. They're actually looking at the actual product that you've delivered. So they're able to give the feedback quicker. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this. I like this. Oh, by the way, this I think may not work, because you actually done that. You went into the deployment. You actually deployed the product into the actual live server. You know that this would not work. This combination of technologies is not working, right? So all of these are happening because you are trying to keep the customer happy. It's all customer centered, user centric, and user focused design and development.